for results.
Illuminati make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust down AP, crazy spot bullets to your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
What is going on, everybody? I set up my new computer yesterday, and so I am trying to get my bearings here. If anything sounds off to you, just let me know. I'm trying to work through getting used to a PC, got my mic, my webcam reconfigured, all of this. So if anything sounds off or looks weird, please just let me know, because I am in the process of feeling it out. But I think we're good. Even my webcam, I think, looks better now. Shout out to Jordan. He helped me get set up with everything yesterday. So yes, I think I am good to go now. Although I need coffee. What are you guys all saying? You guys think I'm late? Look, guys, I literally started at the exact posted time of 10:35 a.m. It starts every week at 10:35. You guys are insane. I do a Q&A on the Fantasy Life app from 10 to 10:30. I need like 3 minutes to get set up, and then we are here. Let's work through this. Yes, the cam does look better. The thing is the camera is the same. I think there could be two variables. This new PC is an absolute beast of a machine, so maybe there's some kind of fidelity boost there. And then also, Jordan helped me in my Logitech capture settings, and so I don't think I should have all the auto focusing issues now. So we're feeling good. Although I will say, this slate, I've been behind on my process relative to normal. And it's not a bad thing in that so much has changed that most of that stuff I would have had to throw out the window anyways. But this slate, it's tough to build. It's tough to get away from some chalk plays. A lot of the good pivots are very expensive and hard to pull off. There's some really good low-owned mini stuff like that, but you really get in a jam as far as salary here. So we'll talk through it. We'll figure it out. We'll check the sims here. I think most everything is settled as far as news. I know we're waiting on the Lamar Jackson stuff. That's kind of going to be, interesting. I kind of like it in that I think it's going to keep Rashad Bateman's ownership in check. I think there's a few factors. The fact that everyone is so excited to play Michael Gallup, and that Lamar seems legitimately questionable. The Adam Schefter report was, he was 50-50 to play this morning with this sickness that is apparently not COVID. So I don't mind that. If he suits up, I think Bateman is an awesome play, and I don't think he's going to be extremely popular. I think he could get, up to 15, maybe 20% in small field. But from what I can tell, industry sentiment is very, very excited to play Michael Gallup this week. Josh says, is it possible to fit in Diggs, Hill, and Lamb together? I mean, anything's possible if you do that. I mean, there are cheap options at running back. That mid fives area doesn't look too bad as far as, you got Myles Gaskin, you got Michael Carter, you got Mark Ingram. Of course, Jeff Wilson's going to be extremely popular, although I did just see a tweet here that is somewhat interesting. Even though Elijah Mitchell is doubtful, Nick Wagoner said he's down on the field in sweats doing some light jogging, carrying the football in his right hand and switching to the left because his fractured middle finger is taped up heavily. So that's kind of interesting that let's not just fully assume that Eli Mitchell isn't going to play, even though it seems like that. So that would definitely flip the slate on its head if Eli Mitchell was active and then the Jeff Wilson free square came off the board. But back to your question, Joshua, I also think Donta Foreman is kind of interesting at 4,900. I was kind of workshopping a take in my head if Donta Foreman could be our generation's, our week 11 version of Ramondre Stevenson. I don't know if I feel super confident delivering that take with a straight face, but I do think Foreman is viable. And then you would just punt it off at tight end. You can play a John Bates, you can play a David Njoku, something like that. And I think you could probably pull off those 3 high-priced guys. We also have cheap quarterbacks you can use as well. I think Tua is definitely in play. Obviously, Cam Newton. I don't even think Justin Fields looks that bad, although I don't think I have the stones to pull the trigger on that. Let's see here. I'm getting start-sit questions. Lockett or Gallup, half-point PPR, Lockett. Is Sammy Watkins a galaxy brain play? Yeah, I think Sammy Watkins is a galaxy brain play. I don't hate it. I understand, with Marquise Brown out, but I mean, it really comes down to if you think Rashad Bateman gets mega steamed, then I could start to see myself having that conversation with Sammy Watkins. I don't even know how much is Sammy Watkins even priced. Sammy Watkins, 4,000. Yeah. I mean, I don't hate it. He's still not projecting well. I mean, ETR hasn't projected for a ceiling projection of 13, even with Marquise Brown out, whereas Rashad Bateman's up at 20. So they're making a pretty big stand on Rashad Bateman's workload relative to Watkins. I think down in that range, I might try to make some other plays. I'd mess around with a Byron Pringle, a Cedric Wilson, something like that. I also think another development down there is like earlier in the week when we were doing Swolecast, we were all just joking, assuming Marcus Johnson was just going to be this mega chalk at wide receiver because we had no value opening up. And now we've got quite a few things that have opened up down there to where I don't think Marcus Johnson is going to be super popular. So Marcus Johnson at 3,500 there against the Texans doesn't look awful to me. So a lot more options this week down in the cheap range. How do you live in Mass and drink hot coffee? Look, I'm very seasonal with my coffee preferences. I can be an iced coffee bro with the best of them. I like iced coffee under 2 conditions. One, in the summer and warmer months. And then 2, if I'm extremely hungover and dehydrated, then I find that refreshing. But it's like 35 degrees out now, man. Like what? I can't drink hot coffee in Massachusetts. Even Massachusetts people drink hot coffee in the winter. Just get out of here with this take. What? This is a good point. Iced coffee. You drink iced coffee in the dead of winter. Get out of here. Let's see here. Yeah. So I've been thinking about it. I mean, the fact that he's not going to be, the 35%, 40%, what was it a few weeks back way back when Ricky Seals-Jones was the chalk. I don't think John Bates is going to be mega chalk. So I actually don't mind it. I kind of prefer Njoku though. I think I like Njoku at 2,900. I don't think Donovan Peoples-Jones is going to play. They're really in need of playmakers, and Njoku, we just know, has that kind of physical profile where he can get yards after the catch. He can be a factor in the red zone. So Njoku intrigues me a little bit more. But if your thesis is Washington just plugs in the next man up at tight end like they did with RSJ after Logan Thomas went down and he ran all the routes, then I certainly get it with John Bates. Yeah. Right here. Yeah. To save, would taking Rashard Higgins over Jarvis Landry be a thing today? Rashard Higgins looks fine to me as a points per dollar play down there at 3,200. I think he's fine. The thing that sucks, obviously, is that game environment. And there's a pretty big opportunity cost, I think, at wide receiver down there today. I think I would prefer to have access to that Dallas AC game with a Pringle, with a Cedric Wilson, or just play, a Marcus Johnson or Rashad Bateman who project better for a little bit more, or play Njoku. But I do think Higgins is in play. I don't think that's absurd. If Mitchell is out, how about Trey Sermon leverage? Yeah, no one has the stones. No, nor do I. I do not have the stones to play Eli Mitchell or Trey Sermon if Eli Mitchell is out. The team has shown us, they've tipped their hand about how they feel about Trey Sermon, and it's not favorable. And Jeff Wilson has a track record of performing in this offense. I do think Trey Sermon will get, his obligatory, 5 to 6 carries. I don't think they're going to give Jeff Wilson Jr. 30 carries, but I've seen enough. I would be truly shocked if Trey Sermon, got more than 10 carries in this spot. And I just feel like there's better galaxy brain plays if you want to make that kind of angle there. So I don't know. Trey Sermon that's a milli maker play. Megan Wyatt says, my brother watches your content constantly and would love a shout out. His name is Alex Wyatt. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to the Wyatt family here gathering around. This Thanksgiving, you guys can come around and talk about hand building and Opto Bros at the Thanksgiving table. It sounds like a lovely time. Shout out Alex and Megan. I can't keep up with the chat. Now you guys are all arguing about coffee. I'm just going to scroll over that. I made my piece on here. Corey, let's get into the good stuff. Playing optimals today in single entry GPP, good or bad? Well, I think it's always bad to play the optimals unless the optimals are carrying, far less ownership. I ran the optimals earlier, and I generally run ceiling optimals, so mine sometimes can look slightly different than a median projection optimal. But this is what I was seeing for an optimal earlier. Actually, that was with let me rerun it here again. Dak was showing up in the optimals last time I checked. I had ran it with the double stack, forcing the double stack, and I was getting Mahomes doubles as the optimal double stack. But let me see here what's showing up. So this is what I'm seeing for a ceiling optimal right now. Josh Allen at quarterback, Jeff Wilson and AJ Dillon at running back, both Bengals wide receivers, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Marcus Johnson, Travis Kelce, Michael Gallup, and Browns. And that's going to carry a ton of ownership. I think other than Marcus Johnson, all of those plays are going to be extremely popular. To me, though, it's interesting. Like if you're looking at optimals for quarterbacks, the ceiling optimals, I'm seeing like Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Tua, Cam Newton, Lamar. So where I start to think about if you are leaning toward optimals, which of those plays aren't going to be mega popular? So we see Josh Allen appearing in these optimals, but no one wants to play Josh Allen doubles or even skinnies with Steph Diggs. So I think that looks pretty interesting to me. I felt like earlier in the week, Cam Newton was getting some steam, and now I feel like he might be in check. I think something with DJ Moore would be a nice pivot. And I also like the Tua doubles. I mean, both Gesicki and Waddle look good to me. And then Lamar, being the last guy, I think is relatively interesting as well, just because anytime we have kind of uncertainty around health, around his situation, I think we're going to get a bit of an ownership discount. I just see a tweet come here from let's see. As of 20 minutes ago, I was told Ravens QB Lamar Jackson's status was up in the air. My understanding is there's still not complete clarity on what's causing Jackson's illness other than an apparent virus, seemingly. We'll see what call is made. So that was just tweeted by Josina Anderson a second ago. So that kind of uncertainty, I think, is going to keep Lamar in check. And I like that because both Andrews and Bateman look pretty good to me. Tanny, AJ, MJ, Cook stack the nuts. So I was looking at that one. I do really think the Tanny, AJ, Marcus Johnson stack looks good. I don't know if you have to force the bring back with Brandon Cooks. I don't know if you have to force it with Brandon Cooks because it looks like he's going to be fairly popular, but at 6,000, I mean, I'd almost just rather play, a Tyler Lockett. I'd rather play, a Jalen Waddle. So I don't know. And I think I'd even rather, leave my late flex optionality open and not chew that up. So I don't know. The Texans aren't a team where I don't think you ever have to force the bring back. And Cooks at 6,000, he seems like in a weird limbo area where I'm not forcing the bring back there, but I do like that Tanny side. Yeah, I don't think Cooks is going to be incredibly popular. I'm seeing cumulative ownership right now, aggregated ownership on him at 12%, which sounds about right to me. Probably smaller in large field, but I do think for people running out Tanny doubles, he'll be the de facto bring back. All right, let's look at the Sims here too and see if anything is standing out for us here. I always find that helpful to see what is popping in the Sims. Schefter just said that James Robinson officially is active today and that Eli Mitchell is expected to be inactive. So we'll check in on that in a bit, but it sounds like for sure Eli Mitchell not playing. All right, so right out of the gate, Christian McCaffrey at the top appearing in our optimal lineups 20.6% of the time. McCaffrey's really hard to get to. I haven't heard a lot of people excited about playing Christian McCaffrey this week. I think, people worried about Cam Newton vulturing. And that just being a pretty hefty price tag and people just loving all of these value running backs, I think is going to keep McCaffrey's ownership in check. So everyone who always says like, oh, this will be the last time we can play Christian McCaffrey at sub 15% ownership. Well, today is another day for you to do that. One guy that I was trying to kind of think through earlier was James Conner. James Conner is a guy that shows up in a lot of optimals, but I'm not so sure he's going to be incredibly popular this week. And I feel like he could be one of those guys that is kind of the odd man out. And we're all shocked when he comes in at 8% and stuff, because I think people are going to be playing Dylan at a much more frequent clip. I think they are going to be paying down for Jeff Wilson and Gaskin and those guys. And then in that mid-range too, with it being a late game, I can see a lot of people getting on, Mixon, who's gotten a lot of steam as well. So I don't know. I think Conner could be relatively sneaky, and people are just, afraid of that situation now without Kyler playing. I think if Kyler was locked and loaded, people would feel a lot more comfortable playing James Conner, but I'm not so sure with Colt McCoy at quarterback. James Conner obviously underwhelmed last week. I feel like Conner could be relatively sneaky. And he's a guy I don't mind having in my flex. And you have some options there because it's a pretty clean pivot as well. You can go James Conner to Josh Jacobs if you have him in the flex. You could go James Conner to Tyler Lockett in the flex. So there's some options there. I don't mind building some of my GPP shells with James Conner here. Christopher Riley says the way to win the Deposit Kingdom GPP is to simply play the chalk that the entire tournament has Galaxy brained off of. Yeah, there is a much higher frequency of Galaxy Brain players in the Deposit Kingdom tournament. So not the worst strategy. Let's see. Did the Deposit Kingdom tournament fill? I'm refreshing here. The Deposit Kingdom tournament has 6 spots left. 6 spots. I believe I have the link down in the show notes below. 6 spots left, 450 entries this week. So if you want to get in there and play the chalk optimal while we all Galaxy brain ourselves off the nuts, go for it. Yeah, Justin agrees with me. Conner getting squeezed here for sure. I'm surprised no Cowboys on the Opto. Yet this is something I was noticing both with the Run the Sim simulator and like median and ceiling projection optimizers. Like my read on it now is that people are going to play Mahomes premium doubles with Kelsey and Tyreek and bring it back with Gallup. I think that is going to be the preferred construction. And I think the Dak doubles that don't feature Gallup look really good to me. So basically like a Dak with a CD, Schultz, or Cedric Wilson, two of those 3, I think is going to be fairly unique. And then you could still bring it back with, a Kelsey. I think it's fine to bring it back with whoever at that point. Pringle is kind of the tough one that I'm trying to wrestle with on how good of a play he is. He did pass Mecole Hardman in all of the kind of usage metrics last week, but also kind of hard to know how noisy that might be. But the fact that Pringle hasn't gotten a lot of steam, I thought he would end up being more popular, but Gallup is just providing so much cover for him there. So that's kind of how I'm thinking about that game. But yeah, I thought for sure the second Amari Cooper got ruled out that, CD and those guys were just going to become mega chalk, and it just hasn't really happened yet. The way the slate is shaking out, people seem to really prefer the KC side. And I think it makes sense. It's more pricey, but there's so much value now on this slate that it's not hard to get to a Mahomes premium double. Michael Dubner, who, by the way, does a great article on RotoViz each week looking at tournament strategy. Definitely check that out. Asks, is Tyler Boyd the leverage play that we're all overlooking, plus pivot off Gallup on FanDuel? Well, I mean, the Tyler Boyd thesis is always going to be more heavily skewed toward PPR. The Boyd kind of pivot is hard for me because, I'd almost just rather bet on that game failing. To me, like, Boyd doesn't feel like a super clean leverage spot. I just don't know how. I don't think he's like super negatively correlated with those other wide receivers. I feel like the offense either rolls and he benefits, and then one of Higgins or Chase are also benefiting in a big way. So I don't know. I get it. But that game just seems like it's going to be so popular. To me, the leverage play in that game is to play Josh Jacobs. He looks like the one guy that will probably come in 10%, under 10% of all those guys. So I'm having a hard time finding leverage spots in that game. Could we see Malik Turner go wild today? Sure. I mean, I think it's pretty hard to kind of think through that spot between Cedric Wilson, Malik Turner, and then who's the third guy? Noah Gray or something. So yeah, I mean, any of those guys could pop up for a touchdown. We got Joshua Frick, 20-mile-per-hour winds in Buffalo. Kevin Roth sent me over his weather report to include in the newsletter. He said we'll see rain by the second half of Indianapolis and Buffalo and Houston, Tennessee, if not earlier in both. And there'll be rain early in Detroit and Cleveland, tapering off late. So he hadn't mentioned wind to me, but did mention rain in those three spots there, but nothing in a way that I don't think will meaningfully change projections. CJ Uzoma is the leverage play. Sure. Can we play Cam now that the ownership should be low? Yeah, I think Cam's in play. I updated the aggregated ownership earlier. I'm seeing him at 8%. It looks like he's still going to be the third most popular QB after Mahomes and Allen. Tua is higher than him. So he'll be the fourth, it looks like. And then after him, it's kind of a pretty flat wall with you got Derek Carr, Lamar, Dak, Joe Burrow, all around the 6 to 7% range. So my issue with Mixon is he is I didn't do the tweet this week, but if I did the tweet, the sneaky GPP play who is no longer sneaky, it's Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon has been getting steamed hard. It's like the natural progression of, oh my God, all of the Bengals guys are popping in projections. We're all going to play this Bengals game. And then everyone looked at those percentages and said, how do I pivot off of that? And then everyone started touting Mixon. I heard Mixon on basically every GPP show that I listened to. And I think the ownership on him is going to end up closer to 15% than it is 5%. I don't think it's a bad play. I just don't think it's sneaky anymore. Jalen Hurts looks pretty decent to me. Jalen Hurts, it's the same deal every single week with him. He projects as like a top 6 ceiling quarterback, sub 5% ownership. No one's going to want to play him. I think Devonta Smith is a little too pricey this week, but Dallas Goedert looks pretty good to me. So you can skinny stack there. Maybe you do a skinny with Mark Ingram. The problem is that game is just going to suck. Both those teams playing so slow, running the ball so much, but Hurts is explosive enough to get there with a few big plays that I certainly don't mind it. And the other thing I was thinking through earlier when I was trying to mess with lineups was it's hard. There's so much of the best plays are late, and it's important to get some early contrarian information in our lineup that can dictate how we approach the 4 p.m. part of our lineup. And so a play like a Hurts skinny and to get that information early, I think is really helpful. So I've been kind of trying to force myself into having some contrarian pieces early and then knowing, look, if that smashes, if your Hurts and Goddard stack smashes, then you can chalk it up. Maybe you can eat a Michael Gallup in that situation. If not, you need to get a little more unique. So I find that information very valuable, just with so many of the best plays being late today. Jonathan Taylor is sneaky. No one's going to play Jonathan Taylor today. He's very pricey. People don't like the game script. But yeah, you want your pricey little mini game stack there that no one's going to play. Josh Allen to Diggs with Jonathan Taylor bring back. And Jonathan Taylor's just been running so well. And I forget who I was listening to, some football guy, maybe it was Silva, was saying that the Colts offensive line should have no problems with the Bills defensive line, and that they'll be able to open up holes for Jonathan Taylor. So unless you have major game script concerns, I do think Jonathan Taylor is a pretty good tournament play. Who is this week's Diggs? That's a fun question. So I'm going to say the criteria is who is the stud who has been underperforming that is going to be somewhat popular, but not super popular. I think Diggs ended up coming in the 8 to 12% range last week. I will say it's AJ Brown. I think this week's Diggs is AJ Brown. I'm seeing AJ Brown around 11%. He is just around a bunch of other wide receivers that people are going to want to play. People are going to play Adams. They're going to play Hill. They're going to play Jamar Chase. And I think AJ Brown is going to be relatively in check ownership wise. And I think he could have a massive game in this spot. We were talking with Cram on the GPP show on Friday, and he was mentioning that Houston has been, they've been bad everywhere, but they're even worse against the pass than they are on the ground. So definitely seems like Tennessee could attack through the air there. And AJ Brown should just have a monster workload today. So yeah, I like AJ Brown. People talking about Lockett. Yeah, Lockett was another guy. When I was looking at projections earlier in the week, his price tag stood out at 6,000. He looked underpriced, knocked the rust off of Russ. And everyone goes back to him. He's in the air yards by low model. I think his ownership is probably going to be in check just with how much everyone has fallen in love with those two other games, the Bengals game particularly. So I think Tyler Lockett looks fine. And again, he's one of those guys I mentioned in that price range at 6,000 who should be part of your kind of flex swaptions there, because I think there's lots of stuff you can do with the Lockett, Connor, Josh Jacobs range. Where does Lamb fall in the opto rate? I can't believe he's not in the top 10. Yeah, let me go scroll here. I guess his projection it just didn't change a ton. Here he is down at 6.6%. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised by that as well. But it does look like the optimizer is preferring, the Debo and the AJ Brown in that range. I mean, is anyone going to play Debo today? It feels like every week, Debo just flies slightly under the radar, despite being an absolute monster here. One other pair of wide receivers that I should mention, and they're not showing up here in our optimals as far as the simulator, but man, no one's going to play Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen again. And, we always joke about how Justin Jefferson is, like the most cliche GPP play because he's always projected under 10%, but then comes in at 14%. I do actually think no one's going to play him today. At 8,100, it's just so pricey. And there's about 8 other guys around him that people would rather play as far as Lamb, Diggs, Debo, AJ Brown, Chase, Hill, Adams. I do think Justin Jefferson will be sub 5%. I think I think if you are eating the AJ Dillon chalk, correlating him with a expensive under-owned Justin Jefferson makes sense. And then if you don't buy into the age model, you can save a lot of money. What is it? $1,500 and go down to Adam Thielen at 6,600 and no one's going to play him either. I honestly hadn't considered Nico Collins at all. Sell me on Nico Collins. I hadn't even heard about him at all this week. Is his production up? I mean, I guess if I don't even know how much he is. I have literally nothing to say about Nico Collins. You're the first person who has mentioned him to me this week. San Francisco onslaught. Yeah. I don't mind that. And I mean, I think the Jags too, you don't necessarily need a bring back. I do think playing like a Debo and or Kittle without the running back would be that's a pure leverage spot, right? Like if 40% of the field is going to play Jeff Wilson and Kittle and Debo are going to be sub 10%, I mean, there's your leverage. Have you considered a Green Bay stack with no Rodgers? Yes, I was messaging someone about that this morning because all of the Vikings players, Cook, Jefferson, and Thielen, all look pretty good to me. And then obviously no one's excited to roll out a Kirk double. No one's excited to roll out Rodgers with Rodgers being banged up as well. So yeah, I kind of like that. Like if you wanted to do a Hurt skinny or do a Cam or a Lamar skinny and then kind of stack up that game without the quarterbacks, I think that makes a decent amount of sense to me. I mean, looking at the over under in that game, it has come down early in the week. I think it was at 49.5 and it has come down a couple points. So that's, I guess, slightly concerning there. I'm leaning more toward mini correlations in that game as opposed to kind of that idea of stacking it up. But if I were to stack it up, I do like that thought of going with another quarterback in that game. Let's see here. What's your sneaky stack of the day? I don't know if I have. I think the Hurts stack. I think Hurts to Goddard I like, and I don't know if anyone considers the Tua double stack sneaky. I also like the Ryan Tannehill double stack. I don't think I'm going to get too off the board this week. I do think I want to play some Dak Prescott. Probably going to fade Mahomes at that ownership and just attack that game via Dak. But yeah, I mean, the one that's kind of tempting to me is the Russell Wilson double. We mentioned how James Conner, I don't think is going to be as popular as maybe early ownership projections suggested. And something with, even a Russ Wilson skinny to Lockett or Metcalf with James Conner on the other side. I think you could do Christian Kirk as well, although he's a little less exciting with Colt McCoy. But that's probably your true sneaky stack, right? I mean, Russell Wilson coming off the worst game of his life, all of those other late games being popular. And that's one too. Like if you bomb early and you have a Dak and Mahomes or even a Burrow, like you're probably going to need to pivot to a Russell Wilson. So the sneaky stack of the day might not be the one I'm even playing right now, but that'll be playing at 4 p.m. because my lineups are trash. If CEH is out, what are you going to do with the 5,400 to 5,000 range? Williams, Ingram, Montgomery. Yeah, I do think in that situation, I do think CEH is going to play. I will say that from what I've read. But if he were out, I do think Darrell Williams would be an awesome play. And it's crazy too that no one's really talking about Zeke. I do think Zeke is probably the best leverage play in that game at 7,700. He just doesn't project well at that price point. I don't have a lot of excitement for David Montgomery. And who is the other one you mentioned? Oh, Ingram. I think Ingram's fine. I wonder if Ingram just isn't going to be as popular as the ownership suggests. I'm seeing 23% on him. That seemed, I could just see with people preferring Gaskin and Jeff Wilson and AJ Dillon, I could see him being a little lower than that. But yeah, I definitely prefer Ingram to Montgomery, and will certainly prefer Darrell Williams to Montgomery if CH is out, but I think he's going to be back. My gut is like 65% Darrell Williams, 35% CEH. That's just kind of how I'm reading the situation right now, but I could see it going a couple different ways. Terry McLaurin thoughts today. Man, I will tell you what, no one likes Terry McLaurin. I was doing the start sit advice on the Fantasy Life Q&A, and there are people asking me, Terry McLaurin or, Michael Gallup, Terry McLaurin or Darnell Mooney, Terry McLaurin or Michael Pittman. Like, people are scared of McLaurin. I still think he's a pretty good play. I'm seeing like 2%. He was in the air yards by low model this week. The usage has been good. Yeah, I mean, the two mini stacks, the expensive mini stacks, no one's going to play. We mentioned JT and Diggs, Christian McCaffrey and McLaurin. That is going to be a pricey one that no one pays. But yeah, I think McLaurin looks good. What do we think of Eno Benjamin and Turney's? I think that's too galaxy brain. I think you would need like Kyler playing, them to be, 10 plus point favorites. I think it's too thin. Like, if you want to make that play, I would rather make it with Tony Pollard and just get access to that game environment. I think Eno's too thin. I haven't built any lineups with Gaskin right now. I've been leaning toward playing it through the passing game just because Gaskin, I do think, is going to be fairly popular. And I think if I'm going to eat some Miami ownership, I'd rather do it through Waddle at 5,600 than Gaskin. He's just not my preferred chalk running back this week, but I think he's fine. He projects well. Well, there you go. There's a leverage play, right? I mean, Antonio Gibson, I'm not going to play him this week, but the fact that his shin doesn't seem to be bothering him as much anymore. He had 2 touchdowns last week in a spot where no one played him. I think he's fine. Yeah. A good large field play. I think he's probably a little too thin for small field and 3 max stuff. Nick says Panthers give up the fewest amount of passing yards per game. I'm biased, but I have to also acknowledge he has a chance to boom today. Yeah. I mean, and that's the reason why his ownership is so low. He's a little pricey relative to his projection, and people don't love the matchup, but that's where you get these stud wide receivers in low spots. Diggs, Debo, or Jamar on DraftKings. So Jamar obviously projects the best of all 3 of those, but he's going to be incredibly popular. He's way too cheap at 7,200. Everyone is obsessed with that game. So I'm scratching Jamar off, and now we're down to Diggs or Debo. They project very, very similar to me, similar price, similar ownership, similar ceiling. I like both. I like both a lot. I honestly, they look so similar to me. I think Debo Samuel is the slightly better play, $100 cheaper, maybe 1 point better ceiling in the stuff I'm looking at. He's appearing in the simulator at 16% of lineup. So I will break those ties in favor of Debo Samuel there. And Debo has just been more consistent this year as far as his role and his production. And I've heard some other theories too, that he might even get a few more carries this week just with how thin they are. So Debo's usage is going to be awesome. And it's hard to bet against Debo this year. No one thinks they're sneaky with their Burrow double stacks. They are literally the optimal. The Higgins and Chase are showing up in virtually every optimal. There is no sneakiness there. Ayuk is kind of interesting. I don't mind it. He's in like a weird kind of dead zone for pricing at 5,000, where he doesn't look like an incredible points per dollar play. He looks about even with the simulator. He's appearing in about a 4% clip. I think I would rather just go down to Rashad Bateman. In that case, maybe play a Cole Beasley or Tyler Boyd instead. I don't know. I'm worried that San Francisco isn't going to be pressed, and that the offense is just going to be so condensed around Wilson, Kittle, and Debo. So I don't mind it though. I don't mind it. I think it's a solid play. I'm one of the people that smirk when we talk about matchups. I mean, when we're talking about those individual things, like when we are playing DFS, we're playing a numbers game, and we are trying to benefit the most when we are right. The goal is not to be right. It's to get paid off in the biggest way when we are right. And matchups are baked into good projections. I think at Run the Sims, we have really good projections. I think ETR and Leone have really good projections, and they are factoring in those things. When you see like, oh, this is going to be a slow game, that play volume is baked into the projections. When they see someone, a defense who is allowing far less points to wide receivers than other teams, that is baked into the projections. So what often happens is if you are looking at good projections and then also manually adjusting for your own matchup bias, you are double counting things. And that's what we don't want to be doing. So my rule of thumb is get a projection source that you trust and lean on that. I think it's fine to use that kind of stuff as tiebreakers, but I do think you get in trouble with double counting things in that regard. I wonder what percentage of the Deposit Kingdom contest is watching right now. Contest with the most unique ownership on DK. Yeah, I mean the best plays, definitely the best GPP plays get steamed in this stuff, just in the same way they get steamed in the SPY. Like I think, I've been talking about this with Leone and Cram and stuff, that because the most engaged, GPP bros are consuming, a similar, portfolio of content, whether that's Blender and the advanced analytics guys, whether that's Leone in Dink on Establish the Million, whether it's On the Contrary with Osimo, whether it's my stuff, like that, we all look at the same numbers and the same leverage plays stand out early in the week. And then we get to that situation where it's the game of leveling. And it's, oh, the field is going to do this, so I'm going to play Mike Williams. Well, when everyone decides they're going to play Mike Williams, then he comes in at, 25% last week. So it is a legitimate consideration. And it's why some of these, more obvious stacks sometimes get off of the GPP radar. And I think this week is another one. Like early in the week, everyone's like, okay, everyone's playing Dallas, KC. The Bengals, that's how we're going to play this. That's how the GPP bros. And all of a sudden we're going to swing back. And I'm like, is Dak actually not going to be played that much? I kind of think that might be the case with how some of the dynamics are working. So it's an important thing, I think, to be thinking through those dynamics depending on which contest you're playing. I really think, the Big SPY, the 4,444 one, I mean, that has some of the most like GPP bro, imprint on it that you will see. And the ownership is really reflected in some of that GPP content trends. So if you're playing large field, I don't think it comes into play quite as much, but I think it's an interesting conversation to have. Let's check out a few more things here before we wrap up. Let's see. Did the DraftKings, did the Deposit Kingdom contest fill? If it did not fill, I will be terribly disappointed in all of you. All right, it filled. We can make it a little bigger next week, and we will maybe we'll get it up to 475. Let's see. What is your hat? I always get this one. This is California. Here I come. Maybe that's the sign that I need to play more Debo Samuel. I found this in a lost and found at a camp when I was in high school. No one is talking about Tony Jones coming off IR. I think you don't play Ingram and Jones, and they both get 10 points. I mean, I feel like the team has kind of already told us how they feel about Tony Jones. I mean, there had been a couple spots this year where Tony Jones looked like he should be in the mix for carries, and they didn't want to give him hardly any touches. So 10 points for Tony Jones seems like a rich projection for me. Let's see here. Joshua Frick does have a Geno Smith jersey that he got to get on Splash Play. We still need to see photographic evidence of that. Should we pick out a pick'em? Oh no, I need to do a Royal Rumble on Underdog. I haven't got a chance to do one of these this week yet. Oh no, I'm on a new computer, so it wasn't on dark mode for a second. Good thing I switched that over before I shared. Let me share my screen here. All right, who wants to do a battle royale? What are we looking at here at the top? Ooh, running back is gross this week on royale. Definitely need to prioritize wide receivers here early. And then what do we have at tight end? Tight end is loaded this week after, was it last week when it was just like Kyle Pitts and then a cliff at tight end? I agree with this sentiment. It's both too hard and too easy to make lineups this week. So many good plays, but there's still some chalk I want to eat. The struggle is real. Yeah, because sometimes we have those GPP weeks where like the leverage point seems super obvious, where it's like, oh, Devontae Adams is 40% and AJ Brown or Aaron Jones is 5%, or Derrick Henry is 35% and AJ Brown is 5%. Like, it doesn't seem like we have as many of those obvious leverage spots, and you are having to eat some chalk this week. Otherwise, you're just giving up way too many projected points. Yeah, we can take a look at the underdog pick'ems after I do this this battle royale here. Pete, why are you on Super Draft? I am not on Super Draft. I am on Underdog right now. Full fade on Ravens if Lamar doesn't play. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I mean, they already are, kind of GPP plays, even if Lamar does play. I don't think that many people are going to play Andrews. No one's been playing the passing game. I guess you could maybe still play Rashad Bateman, who would be, I'm on the clock. Let's do Tyreek. I feel like Bateman would probably be sub 5% if Lamar doesn't play. So maybe that's not the worst thing in the world. Let's see. We did get the Josh Allen 101. I always like when I'm in one of these and the quarterback goes early. CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase. That's a fun turn there. Let's see what Devontae and Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to get my guy Debo. Just got all excited about Debo after talking him up. Should we also fade the Bears? Cole Kmet looks like he's going to be fairly chalky, which is kind of surprising to me. So I'm fading him at 3,400. David Montgomery looks like he's catching some ownership, and he's not my favorite play. I guess Darnell Mooney looks fine. Like if you were to do a skinny stack with Justin Fields to Darnell Mooney and you bring it back with like Bateman, that looks fine. But I don't know. I'm not running to the podium to play that. Oh, wow. I just saw a tweet here from Josina Anderson. I'm told Lamar Jackson is not doing well enough to play per league source. Holy cow. All right. That game is now incredibly gross. And I guess I still don't mind Rashad Bateman, though. We're getting Huntley at quarterback. Let's see. I will go ahead and let's see. Let's go ahead and stack up Tyreek with Mahomes. I'm starting to think fading cheap tight ends is the way in that realm, as the cheap tight ends are. This has always been the tried and true. Fade the cheap, the chalk tight ends and the chalk defenses. Fading cheap tight ends. I lean into cheap tight ends if they're not popular. That's why I think Bates and Njoku are interesting, but it's the cheap chalky tight ends that are the worst plays you can make. I was going to consider Zeke if he was here in this spot. Probably going to just keep waiting on. Maybe we'll stack up the 49ers without the quarterback here and go Kittle, or I'll go Waller depending on what TX does here. Yeah, let's go all in. Do I want to go all in, or do I want to try to bank the Waller game? Actually, I feel like Kittle and Debo are probably a little too negatively correlated in this contest. Let's do Waller and try to get as many touchdowns as possible. I need to force myself to put Chubb in a lineup because Chubb does look really good to me. And I think all of those high price running backs are just not going to be used a bunch by the field, just the way with lineup construction dynamics. I see. Look, I have my new setup, but I do not have I don't have that camera yet. But the thing is now that I have this new PC, I can theoretically do that kind of stuff in the future. So probably not going to get to that this season. Even just setting up my PC was incredibly stressful for me yesterday. But who knows? Maybe I will be a 4K camera bro in the future. What's the DST chalk today? I think it's the Browns. I think the Browns now with Tim Boyle, and they're cheap at 3,100. All right, let's see here. Anything I like at running back? Yeah, let's get our James Conner in here. And then we will get one more wide receiver to finish things out. I disagree. There's just way too much else going on at running back. I don't think he's going to get steamed. I do think he will be more popular or more popular than like Dalvin. But there's just too much going on in the mid range that I would be pretty shocked if Chubb was over, 10 to 12% in small field. I mean, the steam is all coming on Joe Mixon right now. That's your guy that's getting steamed. Why are the Bears or Panthers not chalk? Hang on one second here. Let me make this pick. Yeah, we'll go T. Higgins in this game. I'm not going to play him in DFS today, so I will get my T. Higgins exposure here. So for chalk, let me look at my stuff for defenses here. So for defenses, Browns, mega chalk, Panthers next. And then it's pretty flat after that. I think Washington football team will be kind of the preferred cheap play down there in 2,400. The defenses that look best to me for GPPs, Seahawks look really good to me at 2,700. Doesn't seem like anyone is playing them. Obviously, Colt McCoy going to play. Maybe that ownership changes now that the Kyler news is kind of settling. Eagles defense looks good to me at 2,900. I don't think anyone is going to be playing them at too much of a clip. And, but yeah, you mentioned the Bears. They look fine to me at 2,500. I don't think they're going to be super popular. Yes, we already broke this news, guys. We broke this news 5 minutes ago. But yes, I am going to let's pick out a pick'em here, and then we can wrap this up. And 1 second, because I have to send a message. Sorry, guys, this is bad, but having to organize something for the newsletter. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see if we can pick out a pick'em. We got to do this quick. Let's ID something here. Scrolling. Donta Foreman, 58.5. Man, I like him, but that is a big number. 84.5 yards for AJ Brown. Those are some big numbers there. Bateman, 53.5. I wonder if we should take some of these unders now that we don't have. Sammy Watkins under with Huntley. That could be interesting. Tua, not liking anything here. Michael Carter over 75.5 rushing plus receiving yards is kind of interesting to me. Am I being aggressive with the chat today? I didn't even feel like I was. I apologize if I have been not as gentle as I normally am. Carson Wentz, Jonathan Taylor. Wow. That's still a big number there. 96.5 total yards. We have a over 61.5 call for McCaffrey. I don't mind that. Let's see if we can find that. Do we have a Njoku prop? I kind of like Njoku today. I'm just going to put him in the slip for a second. AJ Dillon, 108. Wow. That's a fat number. Justin Jefferson, 78.5. Kind of like that. All right. Yeah. You mentioned the 61.5. It looks like Underdog has the combined 125.5 rushing and receiving yards. Oh, don't show me something with LaVisca. God damn it. 34.5 receiving yards. Should we just completely throw in the towel on LaVisca and just put a nail in it with an under bet today? T. Higgins, 63.5 receiving yards. Man. Tyler Lockett, 63.5. That's still pretty big. Let's see if we have anything fun in Dallas, KC. CeeDee Lamb, 84.5. Zeke, 69.5. Wow, that's a Cedric Wilson, 36.5. I kind of like that Gallup over because I'm not going to be playing him at DFS. Someone mentioned Ayuk under. What was the Ayuk under? Yeah, I don't mind that. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not feeling too inspired today with these. I'm going to bet the Sammy Watkins under and the David Njoku over. Just a very sad pick 'em for me today. Here's the link if you guys want to tail the world's saddest pick 'em. Appreciate you guys hanging out today. We will be back tonight at 6 p.m. for Tilt Space. Good luck building your lineups. And of course, I'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. to review our GPP lineups. Good luck out there today, guys. Let's win a tournament.